So Ben Shapiro decided to weigh in on Kamala Harris's CNN town hall, and of course, this is going to be about her statement that was relating to Medicare for all. Now, if you recall, she said, the solution, and I feel very strongly about this, is Medicare for all. And then I believe someone asks her whether we can keep our plan or whatever. And she goes, oh no, we just need to eliminate private insurance. Now I'm going to give you some details on Bernie's Medicare for All plan, and we'll get into that when it comes to when we're going to look at this clip from Ben Shapiro. We're going to look at a couple clips here. Now, the problem with Kamala Harris, and I've gone into this, and I've talked about this, is what Kamala Harris is currently doing is she is co-opting the message of Bernie Sanders and Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez because she's doing what Hillary Clinton was too incompetent to do. What is that, you ask? Fake adopting policies that have massive support amongst the people. So, she could have adopted fakely Medicare for all and a bunch of other positions like free college education and $15 minimum wage, but she was too incompetent to do so. Remember, Medicare for all polls at 70%, and same thing, we found a majority support a 70% top marginal tax rate. A Fox News poll found I believe it was like a 46-point margin of approval for raising taxes on the rich. So these things are popular, and so what Kamala Harris is doing is she doesn't care. She's a massive, massive narcissist. What she has now become is Obama 2.0. So she's going to make all of these promises and lie that those are her real positions, when the truth of the matter is she couldn't care less about any of these policy positions. The means to her end is irrelevant. The end being becoming president, and the means being it doesn't matter what you do. If you have to adopt a bunch of policies that you don't support because of their popularity, fuck it. I get to be president. I'm a massive narcissist. That's all that matters to me, right? So that's what she's doing. Now, Ben Shapiro here is going to claim that she's the same radical as AOC and Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren, and he's going to use the word radical a bunch of times in a small span, but check this out.
Radical Democratic base has now taken over the entire party because there are no centrists left who are running for president in 2020 in the Democratic Party. It's amazing to watch as members of the media label random members of the Democratic coalition centrist. So they've been making the claim that Kamala Harris, the senator from California, is the new centrist. She's a centrist voice, as opposed to Elizabeth Warren and Bernie Sanders. Now, the reason that they are saying that is because she had a history as a prosecutor. So that means that naturally she is more centrist than a lot of the other Democratic members of the coalition. The only problem is she isn't. And she served as a prosecutor because she felt that would be a gateway to higher office. But the reality is that Kamala Harris is every bit the radical of Elizabeth Warren or Bernie Sanders or Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez or anybody else who you think is the face of the radical Democratic Party.
Yeah, so like I just explained earlier, that is just completely false. What Kamala Harris is doing right now is, and we just covered the story yesterday about how she's already backtracked her position on Medicare for all. She now, her staffers came out and said, oh, well, after all the backlash, Kamala is now open to more moderate reforms to the current system. And it's like, you've proved my point within 24 hours of the statement you made. I told you guys that she's faking it. If you think that Kamala Harris, were to win the presidency, which she's not going to, if you think that if she were to win the presidency, she would care or fight for those positions, you are an absolute lunatic. You are a total loon, because she doesn't give a shit about those positions. She just wants to be president. She didn't care about policy positions. She wants to hold, the position of the highest office in the United States, which is the presidency. That's what she wants to do. And you can see her past as a prosecutor as a bad thing, and that is a signifier that she is more centrist, because again, like I said yesterday, Kamala Harris's Attorney General and DA and Kamala Harris today are two totally different people. They're not the same people. They should have different names. It's not the same person. It's like you took Kamala Harris as Attorney General and just did a complete 180 on everything. That's basically what happened, because you're talking about all of the horrific things that she did as Attorney General. Holy smokes. And I'm going to get into talking about, I don't know if it's the same clip that he's talking about. It might be, but about that whole sort of thing where she says these crazy things about, we shouldn't build more schools than prisons, and she's just terrible, whether it be cracking down on poor black people using marijuana, whether it be cracking down on sex workers, whether it be keeping a man in jail who's clearly innocent based on a technicality. She tried to do that with the second person, but she actually succeeded with one. His name's George Gage. He's still serving a 7-year sentence. You can look that up. She's a horrific person. She's a horrible person. But one thing here about Ben Shapiro is, Ben Shapiro, so remember when I went after Kamala Harris because she was like, oh, I've always had one client, and that's the people. Again, trying to co-opt Bernie Sanders, the people. Trying to co-opt. That's what she's trying to do. And I cited a literal verbatim quote of her saying, I have a client, and I can't choose who that is. And she's referring to Governor Jerry Brown in terms of his position on resisting the Supreme Court decision to vacate people from jails. And the reason she didn't want to do that was because she wants to maintain and have more prison labor. So she is a complete liar, but he took that and said, oh, well, you didn't represent them when the people in California voted for traditional marriage. I'm sorry, your attack on Kamala Harris is that she didn't support being anti-gay? Huh? That's a commendable thing. That's a positive. That's not a negative. And Kyle Kulinski pointed that out on Twitter. He's like, brain genius Ben Shapiro thinks that this is the way to attack Ben Shapiro, or to attack Kamala Harris. You fucking idiot. That's not the way. That's not something to attack her for. People are like, this ain't it, Chief, because it's not. You stupid idiot. Like, you're wrong. And it just goes to show the, homophobic roots of this douchebag. But anyways, he's now going to get into going on to call them a radical and talk about the Medicare for All.
Last night she did a town hall on CNN, and it was just a wonderful example of CNN, again, playing host to a propaganda piece on behalf of a Democrat. So she's in front of a group of people, probably, 400, 500 people maybe. And I love that CNN was like, she did this in Des Moines, Iowa. And CNN was touting this online. I'm like, wow, look at the crowd Kamala Harris can draw. Not to be self-centered here for a second. I have not spoken to a crowd smaller than 500 people in probably 3 years. Okay, and I'm not a senator from California. So it's pretty amazing that people are now touting this as an example of her ability to get people out there. I mean, CNN's broadcasting this thing live. You think CNN is going to be interested in hosting an event that has a bunch of empty seats in the background? In any case, she was asked a bunch of questions about policy, and she proved just how radical she is. So she was specifically asked about private health care insurance. So she is a proponent of Medicare for All, the Bernie Sanders plan that would cost $32 trillion over 10 years. It would double the size of the federal government, and it would also destroy the private sector. Now, there are a lot of folks who say, well, Medicare for All wouldn't destroy the private sector because health insurance would still continue to exist in the private sector. But according to Kamala Harris, she actually wants it to destroy private sector medical insurance. She believes that everybody should be thrown onto government care, that you shouldn't be able to buy private sector health insurance, because once the taxpayer is footing the bill for Medicare, number one, there's not going to be a ton of money left over to pay for private health care insurance. Two, most people are going to be getting their health care insurance through the government of the United States. And three, if you have private health insurers competing with the federal government, that's not good for the federal government, because the federal government is then going to have its care rejected. This is the great hole in a lot of these systems. You can have supplemental health insurance in a lot of nationalized healthcare countries. For example, in Canada, you can get supplemental health insurance, although it took a while for them to allow even that. In Israel now, you can finally get supplemental health insurance. In Australia, most people have private supplemental health care insurance. Medicare for All in Australia is really just for basic care. But for full proponents of Medicare for All, people who believe that the government should cover all costs, it's going to come down to rationing.
So as you guys saw there, he's railing against Medicare for all and calling them, radicals or whatever it may be. It's getting kind of redundant and annoying at this point. But here's the thing about there is a decent point in there, actually, which is that Kamala Harris, and this goes to prove it more. So if you look into Bernie Sanders' Medicare for All bill that he actually proposed, what that states is, and this is the same law that it's already, to my understanding, there's already law in place where private insurance can't duplicate Medicare and sell that. You can't sell the same services identically and sell it. So it's the same thing with Medicare for All. So you can't, have the same exact services that are sold, but you can get supplemental care through the private sector if you want to. So everyone has a bottom line. So the systems that he's describing as giving more credence to, because they're not as much of lunatics as these crazies, these crazos over on the left are, because even they allow supplemental insurance in places like Canada and now Israel and UK and whatnot. That's Bernie's plan. So he doesn't know that. He's wrong about that. But he is pointing out that Kamala doesn't know that that's what Bernie's Medicare for All bill does. Because Bernie's Medicare for All bill, it doesn't outright eliminate all private insurance. What it does is, again, so basically all of the current private health insurance plans would be eliminated because you instate Medicare for All. And then if you want supplemental insurance through the private sector, you can get that. So it's just like, a system in Canada and other places like that. So while he's being a smarmy douche, he still does expose Kamala Harris in a way, because Kamala Harris is, again, leading to the point that she doesn't actually believe in him because she doesn't know what the fuck she's talking about. Same thing with the Green New Deal. Like, do you think she really, like knows about the Green New Deal, is down with it, and really is repping it? Nah, fam, that's not what she's doing. She's faking it. She's being a fraud. That's what she's doing. She doesn't actually support Medicare for All. She doesn't even know that Bernie's bill allows supplemental private insurance, just not ones that duplicate Medicare for All, duplicate Medicare, which is already the law for Medicare. So, anyways, Ben Shapiro stupidly saying that she's a radical in the same... Again, I obviously don't take that comment seriously anyways, but thinking about how right-wing this scumbag is, truly, like, it's really shocking, I guess. I don't know, it's hard to comprehend. And he goes on this clip to say Obamacare is a piece of garbage. Like, dude, it's a Heritage Foundation idea. Shut the fuck up, okay? This is private insurance galore, you fuckface. Anyways, so he does that. He also says some dumb shit about Medicare for All because he didn't know about Bernie's bill. And then he also exposed Kamala Harris a little bit.